Hey everybody, what's up? It's Melissa with Three-Way Fit, and today's video title is Healing from a Toxic Relationship is Similar to Healing from Coronavirus. Wow, so this is a hot subject right now, right? So I'm going to show you how it's similar, but before we get started, welcome to my channel if you're on YouTube. If you like my content or any of my videos, or if you just want to start following me and you feel this could add value, share it with your friends, share the link with your friends, subscribe, click the subscribe button below the video, the little bell above the subscribe button if you want to get future notifications. And if this adds value to your life in any way or to others, please share. Okay, and this information plus more will be on my new app coming out, Three-Way Fit. It should be up in app stores within a few weeks. It's in review right now. So let's get on with our topic. So how is healing from a relationship that is toxic similar to coronavirus? Well, the inspiration for this video actually came spontaneously and randomly as I was coaching one of my clients yesterday, and out of my mouth came, going into a relationship or staying in a relationship with somebody who is toxic, thinking that we can heal them or fix them, is like going up to a person who has coronavirus and kissing them, thinking we can heal them and thinking that we won't be infected. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I went, wow, that's the perfect metaphor, because not that we know somebody's toxic when we first get involved with them, and just like coronavirus, you may not know somebody is infected, but once you do, wow, why would we stay in that relationship and not think that we would be toxic? And where's the logic in staying in a toxic relationship like that, thinking we can heal them or fix them? We cannot. So that's what this video is about, and I'm going to go through some key principles of how, if you're already in a toxic relationship, how to get out of it better, how to recover, and lastly, how to prevent yourself from repeating this cycle and why we might do that. Okay, so let's dig right in. Okay, so first of all, the reason that oftentimes we will attract a toxic relationship is actually subconscious and we're not even aware, but usually there's something in us that still needs to be healed or that hasn't healed fully. Stay with me here. And the reason we will attract oftentimes a toxic or even narcissistic personality, which I have a whole other video series I'm going to do on that, is because we have an old wound either from a past relationship, maybe from our childhood, or maybe from peers where we did not fully heal. And so what we will do subconsciously, I've studied and researched this, is our emotions, our soul, our brain, we're looking for a different resolution, a different outcome to that toxic or emotionally abusive person or relationship that hurt us. So let's say you were abandoned as a child or rejected by your peers. You're looking for someone that reminds you, subconsciously you'll be attracted to somebody that reminds you of your abuser, because that will feel familiar, and you'll be attracted because you want a different ending or a different resolution. This is all subconscious. You're not even aware of it at the time, but you need to know this. And the reason you need to know this is once you're aware of this unhealthy pattern, the first question you need to ask yourself is, what do I need to heal from? What still needs to be healed in me so that I won't attract this type of person again? There's something I need to heal. And you'll have to go on a process. So just like with physical health, this has to be really intentional. If you want to attract healthy relationships, and by the way, I know no one is perfect. I keep getting, no one's perfect. Everybody has baggage. Yes, that is all true. But I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. But there are different degrees of health and healthiness, and that depends on a person's proactiveness in being a healthy person. Just like in the physical world, when we see people that are physically fit and physically healthy, do you think that happens by accident or random chance? No, of course not. We know those people are very intentional. They're intentional about their diet. They're intentional about working out. They're intentional and proactive in their making sure they keep and maintain good physical health and well-being. So why should it be any different with emotional health and relational health? We tend to forget about that and realize it doesn't just happen randomly. You have to be proactively, we're all on a journey. We all have different wounds. If you've lived long enough, you've been through enough of your own emotional wounding, or you're going to have some baggage along the way, right? And I'm going to have a whole nother video after this about how to get rid of that baggage. But today I just want to talk about the healing aspect and how to become not toxic once you've been infected by a toxic person. Because guess what? If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist or with a toxic person or an unhealthy person, you have been infected. You're now infected. And if you find yourself, this is a big symptom and clue that you're unhealthy, is if you find yourself going in cycles with this person and unable to get out of the relationship, even after you've discovered they are toxic, after you've discovered they're unhealthy, after you know repeated emotional abuse, repeated patterns of not treating you well, and you still keep going back to them even though they haven't changed, even though they still treat you poorly, you are now infected and you are now toxic. So I want to focus on you today, because the truth is, we can't, now you've probably discovered by now, you can't heal that person. You can't fix that person. If that person is going to change or heal, they have to seek, just like if they have discovered they had coronavirus, they would have to seek the professional treatment, the medical treatment, the professional help in this case. They would have to be proactive. And a lot of them, if they're narcissists, don't even want to change or go through the effort. But if they do, just like any addiction or any personality disorder, once they realize they have it, if they do want to change, and then more importantly, they seek the change and go through the steps. So let's say you're just a person that wants to maintain your health. You're going to go to the gym, you're going to eat a healthy diet, all that. But if you're infected with a disease, you have to go further. If you, let's say you have an injury, like for me, for example, I had a knee injury. I tore my ACL. Now you're going to have to go through even more intensive healing. You're going to have to go through surgery. And surgery is painful. So if you've been wounded, traumatized by an abusive relationship, you are in emotional trauma now. And that's why you can't leave the relationship oftentimes, because you now have a trauma bond. You now have a soul tie, an unhealthy trauma bond. So in order to leave this, you have to go through surgery of the soul. You have to be willing to go through some painful things and revisit parts of your past, revisit things about you that are unhealthy and what you need to be healed. Because the truth is, if you're attracted to a person like this, there's something unhealthy in you that still needs to be healed. Whether it's, feeling like you're not good enough, not having enough self-love, being an overgiver. I was married for 21 years, and my husband taught me a lot of things about people, because he was a people watcher and he had a lot of wisdom and a lot of discernment. And I remember there's one point in our marriage, we were married 21 years, about 10 years through, and I said, why do I keep attracting these user type people? And he called them parasites. There were people that were unhealthy friendships, and they would be attracted to me and just like want to be friends with me. And pretty soon before I knew it, I was like, oh, this is an unhealthy person. And then my next question was, why do I keep attracting these? My husband said, because you're too nice and you don't have boundaries. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when they're a parasitic type person, and most of them were narcissists, they look for a host. So this was a great word picture and a great metaphor. They look for a host to attach themselves to. And when they see somebody, you're a magnet for them, because when they see somebody who's overgiving, doesn't have strong boundaries, you'll give the shirt off your back. They'll take that shirt off your back. So when you're overly giving and overly accommodating, they see that as a weakness to exploit. You can be easily manipulated. So once I realized this, I started exercising firmer boundaries and being more self-aware. It's the same principle here. Once you realize that you're attracting unhealthy type of people, unhealthy relationships, you need to see what's wrong about you. Maybe you do need to exercise more self-love. Maybe you do need greater boundaries. And this is going to be, you need to go through professional therapy. If not, do what I did. I read a lot of self-healing books. I listened to a lot of podcasts, a lot of people that speak on these subjects. And if you're involved in a relationship with a toxic person or a narcissist, I recommend Dr. Ramani on YouTube. She's a clinical psychologist. From a clinical standpoint, she's excellent. She has a 12-step recovery program for narcissists. And I also have a few other recommendations I can give you. If you need personal coaching on the subject, go to melissadaggett.com, schedule a private coaching with me, and I can share with you a lot of my resources. I also believe there's a spiritual component to this. So I study my spiritual sort of father and mentor is R.C. Blakes Jr. on YouTube, and he talks a lot about the spiritual side of narcissism and how, you know, that person can have several demons. They can be similar to bipolar personalities because narcissists have self-hate. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole subject of narcissism right now, but they are a very popular type of toxic personality right now. And a lot of people get mislabeled as narcissists just because they take selfies on social media. That's not a narcissist. A narcissist is actually can be a diabolical personality, and they don't even realize it. And they're self-rejecting, self-loathing. They were either rejected by parents in childhood, or the opposite. A parent was a helicopter parent and made everything about them, or maybe they were rejected by their peers. But whatever the fact, they've been abandoned and rejected, and they have self-rejected and they've abandoned themselves. So they project this self-hate onto others, and they can't love others because they have no self-love. So it's actually the opposite of self-love. So when you see somebody with healthy self-love, it's going to be somebody who's able to actually really give a lot of love. But those people sometimes can become codependent and overgive, so they need to be aware if they're an empathic sort of personality, because narcissists cannot feel true empathy. They can fake it. But empath personalities feel empathy deeply, and a lot of times they'll be a magnet for the narcissist. You need to be aware of what your personality type is, why, and just be aware of what your boundaries need to be, because you know, it's like too much of a good thing is not a good thing. It's not good to be an overgiver. It's not good to be overly empathetic. We all need healthy boundaries. So I have videos for all of this type of stuff, but today what I want to focus on is if you've been a victim of an emotionally abusive situation, a toxic relationship, you need to approach this similar to coronavirus. Okay, here we go. Number one, you need to socially distance yourself, socially isolate yourself from that person. You cannot heal if you stay close to them, keep in contact with them. You're going to keep in this negative, unhealthy cycle because you've now bonded with them. And like I said, you have that trauma bond. So number one, socially distance yourself. If you have to move physically, geographically, do it. Because if you don't, this cycle is going to keep repeating, and it's going to go deeper, and it's going to get worse. The bond and the attachment is going to get worse. And unless this person is committed to healing and therapy and all that sort of stuff, they will never change. And, you know, it'll be a long process. So, number two, what would you do if you had coronavirus? So once you make the diagnosis that this is unhealthy, you isolate. Number two, you seek the therapy, right? You get healed of it. You go to the doctor and you get the treatment. Next, what I was talking about, like surgery or like going through healing of anything that's a deep wound, is going to be painful at first, okay? You're going to have to go through it though and endure it. You're going to have to endure feelings of aloneness, feelings of isolation, feelings of wanting them back. You're going to have to go through that if you want to come out on the other side and be healed and whole. If you keep picking at the wound, if you don't go through the healing, if you keep going back to the wound, going back to the trauma, you're never going to be healed. So you have to make a decision that you want to be healed, and you have to go through the process of isolating and then getting the treatment and going through the withdrawal symptoms like an addict would, you know, like a crack cocaine addict would, you know, where you're going to have withdrawals and want to be with them again. Don't do it. Okay? You have to commit to that. And what I would suggest you do is feed your mind every day. It's called the replacement theory. And I believe Alcoholics Anonymous use this, and a lot of addictive type therapy schools follow this train of thought. And it's also taught in the Bible. It's the replacement theory. If you don't replace that unhealthy thing with something healthy, if you just say go away, it'll go away, but then you're going to keep running back to it. So if you're in that cycle, that's why, because you haven't replaced it yet with something healthy. So if you don't replace it with something healthy, the Bible teaches it'll come back 7 times stronger, 7 more demons, 7. So in other words, you can't just say stop smoking. You need to replace it with healthy habits. You can't just say stop drinking if you're an alcoholic. You have to isolate yourself from the alcohol, and you have to replace it with good things, right? Same thing with food addicts. It's the same principle, and it's powerful. I'll give you a simple analogy about the replacement theory. If I said, don't think about number 2, what are you doing now? You're thinking about number 2. You can't just say don't do something. But if I say, think about number 7, now, are you thinking about number 7? Yeah. So you replace it. So what do you replace this with? You replace it with healthy support. Besides your therapist, you should be listening to healthy things, filling your mind with healthy books, empowering your mind and building your spirit and your soul back up because they've been torn down. Healthy friendships. As much support as you can gather around you to replace the emptiness you're going to feel from the loss of that relationship. Even though it was bad for you and it was toxic, it became comfortable. Okay, and you're going to feel lonely, the loss. It's still going to feel like a loss. So once you've gone through the recovery process, just like you would corona, let's say you're healed and you're healthy, you can, now you're starting to feel strong again. You want to protect yourself from this happening again. So how do you do that? Because a lot of times we just end up going right back into another relationship that's attracting the same type of person. It starts with self-awareness, actually, just like I said before, the intentional. So you need to make a list, journal, do whatever you do of all the qualities. And I would suggest if it was a narcissist, you study narcissism, and especially covert narcissism, because that's the one that's passive aggressive, and study techniques such as stonewalling. They punish you. And very often you're not aware that this person is until you, because they have this mask and this public persona that looks really great. And sometimes they're not the flamboyant. Overt is the flamboyant narcissist. The covert is more subtle and subdued, but they're very strategic. They are very manipulative. They know exactly what they're doing, and they will punish you. Once you get too deep into the relationship, it's all about control. And they will punish you if you question anything, if you confront them on anything. They'll punish you, though, with passive-aggressive techniques such as stonewalling, look that up, breadcrumbing, giving you just enough and then pulling it away, withdrawing affection, withholding, emotional things. It's emotional blackmail. It's emotional abuse to keep you in a state of trauma. Very often they know that you are a person also who fears rejection or abandonment, so they'll abandon you and then they'll take you back, then they'll only to abandon. There's 3 stages basically of narcissism, which I cover in another video, and it's basically they love bomb you, everything's great in the beginning, then when the mask comes off, and usually you're the only one that sees the mask come off, because it only comes off with the person that's in the intimate relationship with them. Everything else is a facade, they're actors. But once the mask comes off, they start abusing you. They devalue you first. So there's love bombing, devalue. They start to devalue the relationship, and you feel it start to twist and turn. Very often you'll see Jekyll and Hyde, and you don't know who you're dealing with. And then they keep you in a state of confusion and trauma. And then the third one is discard. And they could repeat this cycle over and over. So if you've been in a relationship like that, I do suggest you seek professional help and therapy so that you can get the healing you need. So the last thing we're going to talk about, how you prevent this from happening again, is once you've gotten healthy, you have to realize by studying the things I just said what their qualities are, so you recognize and spot them early on. You spot the red flags. For example, you test them and you see how they respond when you confront them about something, or when you when you want to challenge something. And you do it in a loving way. Don't do it in a confrontational way. Do it in a very loving way, so that, just see how they respond to it. See how they communicate. See how they treat you when there's something that bothers you that you want to bring up. Just look for all of the red flags, okay? And if you don't want to attract this person to begin with, have better self-love and better boundaries. So right now, during this period, work on loving yourself and having high standards so that you know exactly what you want and what you deserve, and know that. Actually, I'm going to read a quote by one of my favorite authors. He wrote The Father-Daughter Talk. I just mentioned him a few minutes ago. He wrote The Father-Daughter Talk in Queenology. His name is R.C. Blakes Jr. Okay? And it's really, really good. So I'm going to read you the quote. I was watching him the other day, and I thought this was really good. And this is based on how you can heal and not repeat the cycle of toxic relationships. A person cannot master his or her emotions when their thoughts are rooted in negative past experiences like abuse, betrayal, and other psychological wounding. If you're going to rise, and he says to the queen or king that you are, but you have to understand his frame of reference. He wrote a book called Queenology. So I'm going to substitute the word high value person, because that's what I teach. If you're going to rise into the high value person that you are, and not let anyone steal this identity from you again, whether it be, a lover, whether it be a social circle, whatever. There are dark demons that hang out in toxic social circles too, by the way, and they will try to, it's diabolical. They'll try to steal from you your identity. These people aren't even aware sometimes that demons are using them. But you must understand that continuing to live in your dark past of emotional abuse will consistently sabotage your destiny. You must process your pain and heal, or it will creep into your future to perpetuate even greater damage. Or worse, you will continue to attract these toxic people subconsciously, hoping for a different ending. Those are my words, those last 2 sentences. That was his quote, though. Only you can give yourself a healthier ending. This is me talking now. By getting the healing you deserve. Bitterness of pain defiles everything it contacts eventually. And he says, R.C. Blakes Jr. says, pain doesn't simply go away. It must be processed and then put away. And then I submit to you, after you put it away, you do the replacement theory and replace it with healthy thoughts, actions, and a healthier social environment. Now, I'm going to read one more quote by him because it's wonderful. He's talking about practicing healthy self-love because this is part of your cure, and to keep from attracting these people. Again, you didn't have enough healthy self-love, or you wouldn't have attracted them to begin with, or you wouldn't have stayed with them. Self-love regulates your capacity to determine real love, not lust, not people who just want to use you. Self-love is the healthy value you place on yourself that dictates how you allow others to treat you. Those are boundaries. It is not the same as self-absorption, like narcissism, that only thinks of self and misuses people with a selfish end in mind. Don't divorce your destiny by staying married to your history. Let go of it. Forgive them and release them. That's another part of your healing. Because if you're still bitter and still want them punished, you're still focusing on them. You've got to forgive them, realize they're messed up people and they need healing too. Release them and move into your destiny. Get healthy and move into your better, healthier future. Know your worth. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, click like, share it with your friends if you feel like it helped you, or you know someone who's in a toxic relationship. If you'd like personal coaching, again, head over to my website at melissadaggett.com. Join us on the 3-Way Fit app when it comes out next month. And I will see you in the next video. Go out, live to love to live, and be good to yourself so that you can love others. Thank you.